All right, and welcome back. Hopefully that was a great tour around Visual Studio, really showing you what's new and exciting. Now, the new, or actually I should say the cool part, is that it happens to be that Adam left out a really cool demo that I know that he finished up right before the session. So without further ado, I'm going to switch over to Adam. He's going to show you one more about Metro apps and so on and so forth. So with that, Adam, take it away. There he is. You're on, my
Alrighty,
friend. Welcome to the show.
I'm going to share screens, and I think probably I have to close that,
Indeed, you do.
and we'll see if it tells me. Oh, this is always a bit of a challenge. It wants me to buy video sharing, so let me go back here.
Remember, you want to turn off your video first and then switch over.
Yes. So, video. Stop my video. And we'll get there eventually.
Absolutely.
I'd probably be better with some script. So hopefully that you no longer see my stunning visage. And now when I do a share screen, you should actually be able to see me sharing screen.
In fact, it is coming up as we speak.
Wonderful. And you should see a wonderful picture of yourself as the first part of that.
Indeed. There we go.
Wonderful. So I'm going to bring up good old Visual Studio, and this is Visual Studio 11. This is the running on the consumer preview of Windows 8, and I'm connected right now to a TFS service running up in the cloud. You can see over on the right-hand side, I'm on my account map home, and I'm looking at my Source Control Explorer. And I've got this, I sort of created a very simple Metro app that we can use to do, that we'll use to kind of highlight a few really cool things about Metro and stuff that people will kind of run into as they start to look at building Metro-style applications. So the first thing I'm going to do is find my solution, which is, well, I'll open up the project. And that is opening from Source Control right up in the cloud. And we'll take a look. We'll just run the application to see what actually happens here. This might be scary, but we've got airbags. So I've just started to run it. Of course, it's a very simple app. I've got some pictures. I go ahead and click on that, and I can pick. I'm using the concept of a picker in application contracts to be able to interact with other applications on my system. So
Nice.
You'll notice that, just like the Windows 8 promise, I can actually go up to SkyDrive Photos Camera or my local C drive to work with documents. So
Now, Adam, you didn't have to code all of that yourself, did you?
Well, it depends. I threw a lot of flour on myself, and I was baking all day. No, actually, I didn't. Windows 8 and WinRT provide all that plumbing for us, which is a wonderful thing. So any application, when you're working with it, provides a contract, and you can expose from your application a contract that tells other applications what you can share and work with,
Nice.
which is a pretty powerful capability. So I'm just going to go ahead and go back to Visual Studio and I'm going to stop running the app. And let's kind of take a look real quick on how that works, because there's a few elements in there that are a little different than how you would work with a WinForms application or even an ASP.NET application. In the solution, one of the core things that's a little different is we're working with, in this case, it's a XAML C# application. In Metro-style applications, C# is not a .NET language. You're not writing .NET code. You're writing native WinRT code with C#. And we're using XAML for the markup. So I've got a file, blankpage.xaml, and if I open that up, it should bring it up in the designer. And luckily, Visual Studio is now asynchronous, so I can continue working while that happens. And I can actually bring up my code window and take a look at what we're actually doing to make that magic happen. One of the great things about Visual Studio and WinRT is the simplification of the APIs. to make them very familiar to .NET developers, but also to expose objects in a very simple way. In this particular case, when I tap on an image on the screen, we're calling a method called pickImage, and we're using what's called a picker. And pickers are the replacement for common dialogues and all of that kind of stuff in Metro-style applications. Pickers have a special function in that they provide the new UI to open artifacts or documents. They might be documents, it might be pictures, whatever you want. But they also are a way that you can have your application access stuff across the hard drive or other resources. By default, applications in Metro are sandboxed, and they only have access to their local install directory as well as the libraries on the system. You might be familiar, Jonathan, with libraries from Windows 7.
Indeed.
Well, those libraries are considered safe areas for Metro-style apps, but everything else isn't safe. And in order to access files elsewhere, you actually have to get permission from the user at runtime through a picker to do that. Now, in our case, we don't need to do that. We've got a very simple picker here that's doing a file open picker, and we're giving it a few file type extensions that we want to use. And we're, of course, going to load up the particular files or the images that we want and display them on the screen. And you'll notice that even with the file pickers, async is all over the place. You'll notice this is an async operation, this pickImage, and there's an await keyword where when we're calling the pick single image file async. And that makes sure that the UI isn't blocked, our code isn't blocking the UI thread, make the app very, very responsive. And as soon as we're done picking the image, we're going to return back to our pickImage. Now, it would be kind of nice if we were able to have a toast notification pop up. And toast notifications are kind of the new little pop-ups that you get. Most people are familiar with Toasties. So I've actually been working with that a little bit just before today's session to play with that, because it's the first time I'm playing with a lot of this stuff too.
Well, there you go.
And Windows 8 and Metro, the WinRT provides a great way to work with toasts and essentially create toast notifications for your application. Those notifications can have their own audio, they can have images in them and text in them, and it's very simple to create them. And here what I'm doing, I'm making use of generics in C#, which is a wonderful thing, and we're creating a toast notification. First, we're getting the default text from one of the standard, or the default content XML from one of the standard notification types. We're customizing that to say picture added, and then we're actually going to populate our toast notification, which we lovingly call toast here, with that XML and then show it. So now when we run this application, we are flying by the seat of our pants because I actually don't know if my notification will work.
Of course it will. Come on, that's the beauty of doing stuff live.
And the notification did not fire. It should have. But I'll blame the live gods, the live demo gods for doing that. You'll notice a couple little caveats here. You'll notice that the IntelliTrace is enabled for Metro-style applications, which is a wonderful thing. And we did mention device simulators as well. Here on the local machine, I'm running on Windows 8 and Metro, so I, of course, can run against a local machine, but I can also run against a remote machine if I have a tablet device.
Really?
If I'm building for the next generation of ARM tablets running Windows 8, I may not have one of those yet. So if I don't have one and I can't use the remote machine and agents, I can actually run against a simulator.
Wow.
And if I run the same app against a simulator, we're actually going to see that simulator pop up, and there's a nice little simulator for you running that same app.
So no, there used to be Windows Phone 7 simulators and stuff like that. So now you can actually have same thing for devices. That's great.
Absolutely, and you know, one of the beauties of that, of course, is it is a full fidelity simulator, which can be sometimes very scary. It's actually signing into Live Messenger. You can see it's doing everything. And it's actually connecting to, in my case, I've got a Windows 8 machine, so it's connecting to my local copy of Windows 8 and providing me with a simulator experience. This is really useful if you're a developer writing Metro apps, but your machine doesn't have a lot of the sensors. What if I don't have a 6-axis sensor for auto rotation support?
Right.
Well, those are available. I can change the resolution. I can set location stuff. I can, rotate the screen to actually see what my application is going to look like when it's running. And of course, if I go back, my application should actually be installed on the Metro Start screen for me to run. I love all these great little marketplace apps. There it is right there. If I start it up, we can actually see whether or not it runs properly on a UI. I can even right-click, can see my context menus, and see failures that occur like normal.
Wow. So, hey, Adam, here's a question for you. You had mentioned that this is just something that you were starting to play with, and so on and so forth. What was that ramp up like? Like, is there a lot of new stuff, if you will, that you have to learn in order to use Visual Studio 11 and all of these new simulators and devices?
Well, that's an interesting question, Jonathan. I'm going to stop the desktop sharing now and come back to the video. Okay, sorry, it's going to do that same thing. So let me stop sharing the video. I'm having Skype fun today.
There we go.
And I'm going to go to stop sharing the screen and turn on the video. Wow, there we go, I got it.
There we go.
Believe it or not, for the normal, mortal, average person, they could have figured this out much faster than I did. I view myself, if you're old like me, as kind of the unfrozen caveman developer. I actually found this fairly easy to work with. There is a whole set of samples that we make available for Metro-style applications that cover the whole gambit of technologies that really help you along the lines. I have to admit, the first time I started to write a Metro app, and I wanted to write a great little app for my kids, because they're really liking Metro. We installed it. We have a little touchscreen monitor at home in the kitchen, and they actually love the Metro. Their mom doesn't like it so much because she's cleaning the screen a lot.
Of course.
On the screen is not a good thing. But I wanted to write a little media player to let them watch their movies from the network. Well, interestingly enough, that media player couldn't access a network location. I kept getting these access violations, and I couldn't figure out, why am I getting these access violations, until I realized my app contract and the sandboxing doesn't just let me arbitrarily access any location on the hard drive or the network. To actually do that, that's how you get introduced to file pickers and learn that. So there's a few little gotchas. The application model is meant to really protect the user from very complex things. As a matter of fact, can I show you something really quick here?
You absolutely can.
I'm going to stop.
Only if you're going to switch over quickly.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. And this time I figured out that I can't do video at the same time. Do you know why these toasties didn't work? I'll introduce you to something called the application manifest. And this is kind of like capabilities for your application. I don't know if you can see this on your screen yet, Jonathan.
We certainly can.
So you can actually see that the application, you can configure a lot about what the application can do, including the initial rotations that the app can run on. You can see, you specify your different logos to make sure that the app looks good in the start menu and all of that. And you'll notice here this little toast capable. Well, you know what? I didn't set toast capable to yes in my application. So what do you want to bet that now when I run it in the simulator, actually,
it will work just fine.
Well, we'll see. We're going to see. I'm going to go to my photos and pick one of these ugly webcam photos. Open. And it still didn't work. Okay.
Oh.
You try. You try. But you'll also see other things, capabilities, and packaging options. And this is, if you're familiar with .NET and the application policy, this will look pretty familiar to you. For example, if you want your app to be able to access location services, you've got to specify that. And the webcam, and be able to do text messaging or the pictures library. You've got to specify what your application can actually do before it's allowed to do that. And that's part of your manifest. If you don't do that, you're going to run into a few little surprises when you start working until you actually figure that out. You'll also notice different packagers. certificates, all of that to enable easy publishing to the Windows Store and the marketplace for people to try out your application.
So now, since you're already in there, what would you say is like your top feature, if you will, that is different or new in Visual Studio 11 that totally rocks your world as a developer, totally changes the way that you code daily?
Well, the way I want to code daily or the way I actually code daily? Probably the way I want to code daily, and I think probably the coolest new feature is a unit test capability. Of course, every developer, even if you're working alone, you should be writing unit tests. I'm big on that because it's dangerous to assume your code will always work.
Clearly, as we saw in the demo.
Yes, absolutely. But the Unit Test Explorer is asynchronous. It runs on different threads, so it's very responsive. Unit tests run really fast. Of course, you can run other tests as well. And it has a lot of capabilities, including analyze code coverage, repeating runs, all of that. And the thing I like about it is it's pluggable. You can use any unit testing framework you want. So if you've invested in NUnit, like a lot of people do, you can certainly use that. As well, under unit test settings, you can actually specify something that I really like, which is run tests after build. So every time you build your solution, it's going to run the tests in parallel on the side.
Yes, I remember when I used to have to do that and then manually trigger the testing. It would drive me nuts.
Right. So now they just kind of run all the time, but it doesn't block your access to the Visual Studio IDE.
Nice.
So when you start working with test-driven development, this is a real enabler for you. Allows the UI to work really well. There's lots of other great features in here around dependency diagrams and understanding code, all of that kind of stuff. And I guess my second favorite feature, if you're allowing me to specify more than one, is and I mentioned it in my talk, is the solution and project file compatibility, which has been a bane for a lot of our customers in the past. A lot of developers want to move to the next version of Visual Studio because of all the great bells and whistles, and even to build existing code, which you can do. You can open and maintain. But in the past, your solution files would get upgraded, and you'd have to go do these extraordinary measures to make copies of them so they could coexist. And that problem's gone away. And I think that's really, really great for developers because they can actually take advantage of the newest features in Visual Studio without having to worry about what it's going to do to people that maybe aren't as forward
up to date. Well, that's perfect, Adam. Thank you so much for the tour around. We are actually right at 1 o'clock, so we'll wrap up. For those of you who are tuning in and are listening, and if you have any questions after we get off today, by all means, Adam is actually part of the Canadian Developer Connection group on LinkedIn. If you have any questions for him or anything like that, by all means, please post your questions in there, and myself or Adam will be more than happy to answer them for you. And of course, always the same advice I give everybody. If you're going to go and you're going to learn about this stuff, the best way to learn it is to actually try it. You can listen to me, you can listen to Adam for hours talking about how good this stuff is. But rather than doing that, go ahead, download the beta, play around with it, see what you like, see what you don't like. And actually, both of those, what you like and what you don't like, we'd love to hear from you as we're gathering.
And don't be worried about it because it does work side by side with Visual Studio 10.
Well, there you go. So with that, we'll see you in 2 weeks or so for the next developer session on Tech Days TV. Thanks so much for joining in, and see you next time.